Whew. Welcome back to the greenhouse. If you'll notice that I'm just bundled up to the gills, I got layers upon layers. We're sitting with a high today of 8 degrees and a -3 degree wind chill, and it's only like 6 degrees right now. So with a high of 8 degrees Fahrenheit, or about -13 Celsius, we didn't get very warm today, and we had a good dusting of snow, a couple inches of snow to block out all the light in the greenhouse here. So I just got done batting all of the snow off the sides of the greenhouse, and we've still got frost caked on the greenhouse, and our greenhouse creates its own frost on the top as the heat escapes. So overall, it's freaking cold outside, and the cold winter temps are definitely here to stay. And with that, what we're doing today is fixing our greenhouse stove exhaust. So my co-host, my son, he told me yesterday, he informed me that he was out here and he had a fire going, and we have a leak in the exhaust pipe from old age or damage or something. I can see it from here. We're gonna check it out. But what we're going to do is replace that stove pipe so we can get our greenhouse stove back up and running. Usually if we have sun, I don't need to, but when those negative temperatures creep in, we like to burn a fire. We've got tons and tons of wood chips that are set up and drying just for this. So being able to use this stove is basically free, and if it's down and out, we cannot do a lot of things in here. A lot of stuff we do revolves around this stove, because when I come out here, I like to have it warmer than 50, 55 degrees. I like to be able to work without being bundled up. So we get to cook on here, make tea, all types of cool activities just revolve around the stove itself, let alone all the byproducts of heating our greenhouse. So with that, let's check out our stove, and if that sounds interesting, please consider subscribing to the channel. My co-host, if you'll notice, is not with me today. He's sick, so has himself a case of strep throat. He's not too bad. He's actually not feeling too bad. He cannot come outside and play or hang out in the greenhouse. So this is what he was telling me about. He said that it had cracked, and it looks like it's real flimsy. So this was a swivel piece here. So obviously I bought another swivel piece for like $12. We've got like what, 50, maybe $50 invested here amongst all this stuff, if that. So about $50 to fix, because we'll be running all the way from the exit down here. So we have 1, 2, 3 pieces that we'll be replacing on this system here. So let's get to work. Holy cow, I can't believe how much rust that thing has formed. So we will go ahead and replace this piece, and the next. It looks like it's ready to go anyway. So that's a good point right here, is that it's a high humid environment. It's always moist out here. Even in the summertime, it's got more humidity than outdoors most of the time. So paying attention to something like this is very important, because this could start a fire and burn a hole right through the top of our greenhouse if we had not noticed this. My son didn't catch that, so very good on him for noticing this break, and we're gonna go ahead and take this thing apart. So I will state that it was 51 degrees in the greenhouse before I cleared all the snow off. I don't know if I said that or not. So it was about 51 out here with 8 degrees for a high today. And the sun just came out maybe 2-3 hours ago, but the sun wasn't coming through. I had to brush all the snow off. So we're almost up to 60 degrees in the greenhouse now with our systems operating. Our compost, holy cow. Yeah, we got some good buildup in there. Oh yeah. There is all the junk. Holy cow. So this is our flue that we installed here. it was working pretty darn good, other than being a greenhouse stove and not having a whole lot of care taken for you. I will state that we did clean this probably 2-3 months ago, and I didn't film it, but we just basically took it apart just like this, and that's probably where most of this damage had come from. We popped off our sleeve, our rotating elbow, just like this one, because it was in a little better shape back then. And when we put it back together, I think we kind of damaged it and it was already on its way out. So we have to compress the spring on the flue, and that allows that piece of metal to spin around in there, and then we can turn it the other way. All right, so by compressing the spring and turning this, there's 2 little notches on the flue itself. Oh, and this is what I was trying to get around, the little retaining piece in there so you can spin it to be able to slide it out. And that's how we will put it back in also. So since we've got it apart, this piece it has some pretty good continuity still. Up here where it gets rain and water dripped on it, it definitely is weaker. So we're gonna go ahead and replace that piece at the same time. Whew. Oh, now we've got a giant hole to outside, so time is of the essence. It's going to get very cold very quickly. A bunch of rust chunks in here, but for the most part, everything outside is a lot more solid than everything inside. So that tells you the moisture is having an impact on this steel. Let's take a quick look at my mess before we replace. Got 2 identical pipes. Got a short pipe for the short pipe, and we've got an elbow. We'll have to drill holes for our damper or flue to go in here to be able to control the airflow going out. But you can see how many bricks that we actually have. I mean, this thing is stacked. And then these go basically all the way down, and all those flags lined up allow hot air to pool back here in this area where all of our fans, we had another fan here where we were pushing all of the heat off of there. And after I get this together, I'm gonna keep these bricks down so I can rearrange our heat pulling systems and kind of rework this little corner right there. But for now, with all the snow and crap outside here, I've got to get this fixed up. So they never come attached. You've actually got to slot the grooves, which is not easy. I always just start at one end and then they slide together. Well, that didn't work too well, but they slide together just like that, and then you do it all the way down the seam. So I did disform it a bit, but that's just because they're all seamed together oddly. So once I get the end started, you can see how I just kind of press it all together, and this end has to go underneath and be tucked in. All right, we got that end to pop, that end to pop. We got ourselves a nice piece of pipe. We're gonna go ahead and stick her through. Looking better already. Got ourselves a box of little self-tapping screws just for the stove. The old ones don't really look the best. They have definitely seen some wear and tear. I mean, there is some thread there, but I definitely don't want to reuse those. That's not something I want to reuse. And I will state that when I had hooked up this stove originally, I ran all my piping backwards. So that's why this is not correct. So instead of reworking all of this pipe, which let's talk about this real quick. So I've got my stack here, well clear of the greenhouse and everything, but when I ran those pieces of pipe down, you can see that the flanges, like this flange right here, was sticking up. So if I would have reversed it, I could have used an adapter piece with 2 flanges to be able to adapt them on either side of the elbow, but I didn't want to spend more money. Oh, I can feel the heat rolling out of the greenhouse here. It is wicked cold outside. As I was saying, you want these to be opposite. So don't do what I did, because now all of your drippings, moisture, ash and residue that naturally occurs can basically run back down and just basically rust it faster. So we have the same thing here. So we're going to be taking this piece and running it inside, when this piece should have the flange and I should be clasping this side over it. But since I'm just doing a quick repair to get the pieces that were faulty out of here, I'm not going to redo the entire system. I am this summer, but for now, this is going to have to work. So with a DIY greenhouse is going to come a DIY exhaust. So we've got this piece. You can see that it didn't want to separate. You can see the flanges there. So what I did was mark down from our flanges to this little arrow. So we're going to cut all the way around and make this piece shorter, because when our elbow is up, we only need X amount, maybe 8 inches, 10 inches or something. And then we've got to drill our holes and run our damper here. So a little bit of work yet to do. I will say that it's much warmer in here. I don't feel a cold draft now that we've got a pipe in the hole over there. So we got to pop these 2 pieces together to make one solid pipe. So this one's short enough, I can probably just line the seams up fold it in. So just like I use this to measure, I'm going to measure the holes so I can run my damper in there in the flue pipe here for our new system. So we've got both our marks for our flue here. Grab ourselves a drill bit the same diameter as the rod. So now what we want to do is decide which side our handle goes on. So I'm going to put the seam in the back and this tag will burn right off. So now that our holes are fully drilled in there, we can take our damper and then we're going to take the rod, running it right through the damper here. And then the tricky part, you've got to get everything lined up. So we've got to get it coming out the other hole here, which we've achieved. We have to keep our little loop in this pocket so we can freely spin it. We'll spin it down and slide this in. So now we're locked in. We've got full movement. It's not going anywhere. And you can see that our little curved piece is hooked up underneath and everything's locked in. Seems to be in operating order. I just want to point out that the stove has small screw ports, and even if there's no threading there, tacking through this will definitely hold it in place. So with a little force, that's as tight as she's gonna get. Well, we got a decent seal on it anyway. I'm gonna go ahead and tack this bad boy in right above the hole there. All right, fresh screw. That is mounted. Now, we've got a little free play with our exhaust pipe on the outside, so we can have a little bit of extra room to work when we're putting all of this together now. Now that we've got the pipe all connected together, I'm gonna take a screw and tack it right in the front here. As long as it doesn't interfere with the movement of our damper here, we're good to go. I might tack another one in the back there just to be secure, and I'm gonna put one on each side of the exhaust pipe, and I'll show up close what we've got going on once I'm done. All right, that is complete. We've got a screw on the front, a screw on the front here, and we've got our pipe ran. I do not have the seal. I'm gonna make a seal. I may do a video on that. It's not very important, but it is important at the same time. Here we are. You can see the gap and the sun shining through. So we are all fixed up. All there is to do now is clean up and start a fire. So before we actually start a fire here, I want to see the temp. So without anything going on, the sun's finally shining good. We've got like 57, 58. Those are decent numbers, boys. So this is what we are left with here. Just some shards of an old exhaust on the stove. Now, I don't know what I'll do with those pieces. Just throw them away. I mean, you could just break them down and use them for rust. Literally throw them in a compost pile or something. But, I mean, they're halfway there already, so ain't much of a stretch. We've got ourselves a fire rolling there. I just loaded it up. We've got nice control over our flue pipe, the damper in here, so keep it about there. A little bit of smoke, burning nice and hot. This pipe might smell for a little bit here, but other than that, we're good to go. This thing is fully functional and operating. We can put all of our little devices back up here. This greenhouse oven. All right, my son decided to draw something. Don't know what it is. No idea. So with all of that complete and a nice brand new pipe, letting our exhaust breathe here, I'm going to throw some more videos together with ideas. Let me know if you guys have any ideas. I may have already filled this spot by the time you guys see this video, but I can always rework things. Nothing is forever. We're always changing and building upon the systems we got. Make myself some tea here too, so we get this fire going nice and warm. Oh yeah, I can feel the heat now. That's awesome. Another successful winter day. The sun's fish just lurking down there somewhere, kind of swimming about a foot below the surface. The greenhouse water is not that cold actually. I mean, it stays about 50 to 55 degrees no matter what the temps are outside. We actually saw that frog that was in the pond at the end of fall. I woke him up out of the aquaponics bin. So we saw that frog the other day when we warmed it up a lot in here and we had some sun. I don't know if he's just confused being in the greenhouse or what, but he was out in the pond floating around. So nice and healthy bullfrog. So before this video gets too long here, we're always exchanging with the outside. We've got about 56 degrees right next to the door. My door wasn't closed. You would think of all things I would close the door better than that. Oh man, I got some messy hair, so I've got to go inside. I just came out here right after work to fix this thing. I will see you guys in the next video.